Love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. I was someone who was a people pleaser. I was a doormat, very fearful as well. When I got cancer, I weighed about 86 pounds. My organs had started to shut down. That was when I actually went into a coma. When I'm in the coma, though, I realized I was outside of my body. I felt so free and light. The fear was gone. I can see and hear other beings around me. And all I felt was pure, unconditional love. I get told, be yourself fearlessly, because I had always been afraid. The doctors couldn't believe what was going on. The tumors shrunk by 70% in 4 days. If you want to get rid of that anxiety-driven life, make your choices from a place of love. Follow your heart. Do things you do out of love, not out of a place of fear.
It's time for you to man up, to once and for all, tell your mind who the fuck is boss. I need a fucking answer. What's it gonna be?
I don't know what it is about this fucking sport, but it attracts people that really need to do deep work on themselves.
I failed in this city. All these bad memories. I never really felt like I gave a fuck about me or my life. I almost killed myself, like.
Think about something that is gonna drive you when it really hurts. Some kind of demon you wanna fight.
This is not Pussy Man, this is Iron Man. Under pressure reveals true character. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be in Chattanooga, May 20th or what?
I was super excited to welcome back to the show Anita Moorjani. She's the author of the book Dying to Be Me, which talked about her suffering from terminal cancer in 2006. She was 86 pounds, emaciated, about to die in a hospital, and she had an out-of-body experience, also known as a near-death experience, and she came back with a will to live. She also came back believing that she had brought the cancer on herself through her own energy and thinking process, and she's back to tell you that now is the time to live. You don't need your own near-death experience or cancer to live for today, and she's also here to tell you that you need to start making decisions based out of love and not out of fear. And I love Anita. She really has this great energy and great connection that you're gonna feel, and she's here to tell us all that it's time to live right now, and that's what I plan on doing. And inside London Real Academy, we're planning on doing a few other things as well. We're building our Broadcast Yourself course, our Business Accelerator, our Life Accelerator, and our Speak to Inspire courses. I personally mentor you to accomplish these great things in your life and live for today. Here's a little bit more about what we do.
London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon.
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Anita Moorjani, the international speaker and author of the New York Times bestselling book, Dying to Be Me. In 2006, you were terminally ill after suffering from 4 years of cancer with large lemon-sized tumors all over your body. You then had a near-death experience and subsequently made a remarkable, rapid recovery, which dramatically changed the way you live your life. These days, you tour the world speaking on stages to sold-out audiences about your powerful message of embodying love in a fear-based world. You've written your latest book, What If This Is Heaven? How Our Cultural Myths Prevent Us from Experiencing Heaven on Earth. Anita, welcome back to London Real.
Wow, thank you, Brian. And I'm so honored to be back.
You know, it's been 3.5 years, and the first time you were here was so powerful, and our audience responded in just such a massive way. It's been watched almost 300,000 times, and you know, your story really resonates with people, and you were a big part of the early London Reel, so thank you for that.
Wow.
And what have you been up to in the last 3 years?
Life's been a little crazy, probably crazier than I expected or wanted it to be. But I've been speaking, touring, I'm writing my 3rd book, and I'm involved in a Hollywood movie. A movie is being made of my life story.
Wow, what is that like, that process? And of just someone making a movie about your life, and yeah, what would we not know what it's like to actually be part of that? Is it strange? Is it good? Is it bad?
It is really strange because I lived my life, I don't think of myself as being different or special. So it feels weird that people would want to make a movie about my life. The whole process feels really surreal. It feels, I still can't believe it sometimes. You know, the touring, the speaking, the fact that people would want to publish another book written by me. So it feels really weird. But the movie making process has been quite beautiful because the people who are making the movie is a group of dynamic Hollywood women. They're an independent movie company. So they came to me and made me an offer where they said, we're going to treat your movie with the honor that it deserves. Because my movie, well, when I was first approached, the people who possibly may have made it, there was a possibility that they would have what we call whitewashed the movie.
Right.
In other words, they wanted to cast all white people.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be people of my color, my race, to represent me, who played me,
right,
and my family.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And these days, with so many outlets, you know, like Netflix and these other things, there's a real market for independent film.
Yes, and they are honoring it in that they are, they want to stick to the truth, the story. They want to keep it authentic. And of course, they want to have actors to play the parts that are of the same ethnicity, like they're hiring Indian people. Right. Or people who are Indian by race.
Okay, and your parents were both Indian and you grew up in Hong Kong, was that right?
That's right.
Okay, all right, and so we're keeping it true to that. What is the process like? Are they writing the script? Are they filming? And when do you think it'll be out?
Right now they're deep into writing the script. I'm a consultant to the scriptwriter, and she is fabulous. So the whole team is women. So they're not small players in Hollywood. They're big players, but they're independent, a group of 3 women that have come together who were moved by my story, and so they wanted to do this. Their heart is in it, and this is what I love. They're doing it from the place of their heart. They feel that it's something the world needs right now. So it feels really good to be part of that team, because when we meet up and when we talk about the script and the screenplay and what's going to happen and who we're going to get and who they're going to get to play the roles, there's a lot of bonding that goes on between us, the 3 women and myself, and we laugh and we eat and we tend to have our meetings over a meal, and so it is a lot of fun. It feels great to be part of something like this.
That's good, and the final product will show all of that. I know it will. You know, we've been making movies here at London Real since we saw you. We just finished our 4th, and you know the reason you're doing it, the big why, all of your values, your core mission, it all shows up in the film. And if you have other alternate ideas, or if you have other agendas, it'll ruin the movie. So
Exactly.
I'm glad you're doing that. And a script is a hard thing to write.
Yeah.
And get it perfect. So, a lot of people still don't know your story. And so I was wondering if you could maybe take us back to 2001, which was, funny enough, a tough year for me. I was actually in New York City and I was going through my own demons. But, we know the Anita now, that talks about love and is very connected to maybe who you are and who we all should be. But what was Anita like back in 2001? Who were you and what kind of person and values and how did you look at the world?
In 2001, I was a very different person, at least outwardly. I was somebody who was extremely timid, non-confrontational. I'm still pretty non-confrontational and have trouble saying no. I don't think that ever goes away. But now I'm in a position where I need to do these things. At that time, I didn't need to, and I was someone who was a people pleaser. I was a doormat. I always tried very hard to fit in, to not disappoint other people. I was very fearful as well. I had 2 people close to me who were going through cancer in 2001. Both of them had very aggressive forms of cancer. And they looked like they were not going to survive. Actually, neither of them did survive. But at that point in 2001, it already looked like that. And so I found myself fearing cancer. Both of these people were my age. One was my husband's brother-in-law, and the other one was my best friend. My best friend was like a sister to me. So watching them go through cancer was very fearful. And reading, at that time, there was so much content and material out about cancer, as there is today. But statistics like 1 in 3 people will get cancer. So when I was watching it so close to home, I started to really fear cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where did it go from there?
So I then started to do everything I could to avoid getting cancer. So I would read everything about cancer prevention. I would research cancer prevention. I would order all the supplements that were cancer prevention supplements, like antioxidants. I was following all the food suggestions. I was cutting out dairy and sugar and red meats and all the things that I believed caused cancer. And I was, in fact, probably doing everything that is recommended on an anti-cancer diet. But guess what happened? I got cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, because everything I was doing was from this place of fear of avoiding cancer. So I was so focused on cancer. I was researching cancer all the time.
And you think you brought it on yourself?
I did. And yet there's another component to it, which I want to say here, is that because I was also such an introverted people pleaser person, a doormat person, if you will. And when my best friend was going through cancer, I was there for her, and I found that I was there for everybody. That was just my personality. I couldn't say no to people. I was non-confrontational. And so I found that I was when I was not with my friend, for example, if I was out doing something for myself, if I was out for dinner or going shopping, I would feel really guilty that my best friend had cancer, she was dying, she was in the hospital, and here I am enjoying myself. And so I would find that all the free time I had, I would spend with my friend. And I felt I needed to be there for her and take care of her, and that's what a good friend did. And so I would do that to the point of getting drained. Even when I was tired, I would do that, because to do anything else, I would feel guilty because she was in the hospital dying. And then when I got my own cancer diagnosis, amidst the fear of getting that diagnosis, there was a small part of me that felt, now I have a reason to take care of myself.
Wow. Wow. And do you remember what it was like when you got that diagnosis?
I do. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And what had happened? Did you feel like a lump and you went to the doctor, or how does that happen?
So I had a lump on this side of my neck, and this is my left side, so I had a lump right there. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor, at first, they said, oh, it could just be swollen glands. And so they gave me antibiotics, and they said, come back in a week or two and let's see if it's gone down. It hadn't gone down, it hadn't softened or anything. So then they sent me for a biopsy. And that's when the results came back that I had lymphoma.
Wow. And when he told you that, I really appreciate your honesty by saying part of you thought, now I'm going to take care of myself. What was the rest of you thinking?
The rest of me was really in fear. I was in fear that what was in store for me was the same as what I was seeing my best friend go through and what I was seeing my husband's brother-in-law go through.
Which was what?
Which was their bodies were deteriorating. They were having aggressive forms of chemotherapy. They were going to the best cancer hospitals that money can buy, basically, having the best cancer treatments. But yet, they weren't getting better. They were getting worse. Their hair was falling out. Other secondary problems were developing. I was watching them deteriorate, and that was really, really scary, really scary. But on the other side of it was that I had been spending all my time watching my best friend, watching her health go down, watching her deteriorate, and it hurt me, it pained me to see her. And yet when I wasn't with her, I would feel guilty because I knew she wanted me to spend time with her. Now having my own diagnosis, you see, I was someone that could never say no. Now I was able to say, I have to take care of my health. I have to go and figure out how I'm going to heal this. I had a reason. And this is part of my message today for people. My message is that don't wait for the reason. You don't need a reason to take care of yourself. You don't even need a reason to go do something joyful for yourself. You don't need to feel guilty. And so that's really part of my message.
So your cancer diagnosis was actually the start of your healing.
Yes, exactly. I like that. It really was.
And what are these next months and years like after you get that diagnosis? What is happening to you? How are you feeling? How is your body reacting?
So one of the first things I did was, interestingly, some instinctual part of me must have known this. I decided to remove myself from Hong Kong, which is where I was going through, which is where my best friend was going through her illness. And I had a reason now. I said that I want to try a different form of treatment, and I want to go to India, and I want to spend my time doing yoga and follow Ayurveda. Now, had I not had a cancer diagnosis, I would not have taken that time out to do that trip, to do that for myself. It was like I needed the cancer to go and spend 6 months in India doing this. And I watched myself improve as I did this. But what happened is, after about 6 months, I thought I was good. I went back to Hong Kong, and after I went back into the old environment, and my friend was deteriorating even more. And as she deteriorated more, people were saying to me, how is yours? How's your cancer? And I kept trying to say, I'm fine. They said, yes, but have you gone in again for more scans? And I said, I don't need to. I know I'm good. And they said, no, when I said I have gone an alternative route, they said, no, you're crazy. You've got to do it this way. Don't follow all those other alternative quackery stuff. You've got to do it the way the doctors say. You've got to. So when people started saying all this, and then I watched my best friend die, I got into this whole fear thing again. And I could actually feel it coming back in my body. And then I went the whole medical route after that.
Wow. What was it like when she passed?
Very fearful for me, because on the one hand, I missed her. I painfully missed her because she was my best friend. We were friends since we were 5 years old. We were like sisters, and so much of our lives had been parallel since we were children. So there was the huge part of missing her, and then there was this huge fear as well. This fear that, oh my gosh, I now have to deal with this cancer, which she's just gone through. She's succumbed to it. And people that knew us thought it was the oddest thing, that they knew us as two very close friends, and first one gets it, then the other.
Wow.
So,
but that's not odd to you. It makes sense to you now.
To me, it makes sense now,
right.
Yes.
And I just want to say, so back in 2003, 2004, even going the alternate way is a pretty strong move on your part. I mean, this is, there's not a lot of videos and not that much information out there. So, that was a pretty conscious decision on your part.
It was only because I saw what my husband's brother-in-law and my best friend were going through with the chemotherapy and the radiation. It wasn't helping them. To me, it looked like it was killing them. And so I made that conscious decision. But it was really hard because I didn't feel I was supported in that decision. And people would call me and put doubts in my mind. And that was really hard, to get calls from people saying that you're not doing the right thing, you're making the wrong choice. What was really particularly hard for me is that if they could say, you're making the wrong choice, look how conventional medicine is helping these people. But I'm looking at these people that are close to me and they're getting worse, not better. It was, so I was even more scared. So it was like, I was scared of the cancer, I was scared of the treatment, and I was scared of death. I was in a terrible place.
Wow. Yeah. What happens next in Hong Kong? You decide to go into treatment?
So what happened is that when I finally agreed to go to treatment, that was when the doctors said it was too late. It was too far gone. They said that it had spread too much. And so they actually said that had you come for treatment earlier, we probably could have been able to help you. But now it's too far gone, and we will give you the treatment, but it's not going to help.
And what do you make of that conclusion, or what did you make of that conclusion?
So at that point, what happened is my husband tried to keep as much of that information from me as possible because the doctors actually told him that. So he didn't tell me the whole thing, and I'm glad he didn't, because what I did was I dabbled with more. He didn't tell me that the doctors had drawn their conclusion, it was over. So I continued to dabble with alternative and with a combination. But I continued to deteriorate until February the 2nd of 2006. That was when I actually went into a coma. But at that point, just to give the full picture, my organs had started to shut down. My body had stopped absorbing nutrition. I weighed about 86 pounds. I didn't have the strength or the energy to walk. I couldn't even hold my head up like this. My head was hanging down. My neck just didn't have the strength to hold my head up. And I had tumors the size of golf balls or lemons from the base of my skull, all around my neck, under my arms, in my chest, and all the way down to my abdomen. My lungs were filled with fluid. I couldn't lie flat or I would choke on my own fluid. And so I couldn't walk, so I was always in bed, but I was propped up because of the fluid in my lungs. I had open skin lesions. And then on February the 2nd, my organs started to shut down, and then I went into a coma.
Wow. And you had been in the hospital then for months at that point?
No, I was actually being cared for at home with a private nurse, though.
Okay.
I had 24-hour care. I couldn't be left alone because I could have stopped breathing at any time. I was connected to oxygen, even at home. I was connected to oxygen. So my mom was there taking care of me. She had flown in. She was living in India. I was living in Hong Kong, but my mom had flown in. My husband was there, and we had a private nurse as well, full time.
And what's your mental state like from those 3 months up until that date in February? I mean, are you there even? Are you coherent to what's happening? Are you in pain? Are you lost? Are you sad? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, like a lot of discomfort. I wasn't comfortable. If I sat up, after a little while, I'd start wheezing. If I lied down, I start wheezing. I was so tired. I couldn't sleep solid for 8 hours without waking up and choking, which is why somebody had to be there 24/7, and I was connected to the oxygen. And I was heavily, heavily drugged up on medication, including morphine, just to ease the pain. The medication was being injected into me. Wow. And then when it got to a point where I was just drowsy, incoherent, that's when the doctor, my doctor was seeing me, my husband was taking me to the hospital to see the doctor. I was going in and out of the hospital for treatment. I hated being in the hospital. I found it depressing. So I would always want to go back home. We were really lucky that our insurance covered me to be able to be taken care of at home by a nurse. But on February the 2nd, when I was like really not, just completely out of it, not responding, that's when the doctor said to my husband, get her to the hospital right away. And he got me to the hospital, and then I fell into a coma when I got to the hospital.
Wow. So coma, you lose consciousness, and you're 86 pounds. I mean, that's inconceivable.
I know. I look at the pictures, and it doesn't look like me. And I could share some pictures with you later.
Yeah, I'd like to see those. So what happens next? You go into a coma. You're in the hospital.
Yes. And then when I'm in the coma, though, of course, everybody's frantic, and the doctors have told my family that these are my final hours and I'm not coming back, and now my organs have shut down. So all this is going on, and they're inserting tubes and things into my veins. But unbeknownst to all of them, I can see and hear and feel everything. But the best part is I feel great. The pain is gone. I no longer feel attached to the body. It's like my physical body, my eyes are closed, but I could see my body. I realized I was outside of my body. I could see my body lying there on the bed, and I was outside my body, but I could see everything else that was happening around my body. And I felt so free and light. And the fear was gone. That was the biggest thing. The fear was gone. It just felt incredible.
For the first time in many years, the fear was gone.
Many years.
4 years with the cancer, and years before that.
Exactly. And I felt better than I had ever felt ever in physical life before.
Did you note to yourself at the time that this is strange, that I feel great when I'm in a coma?
I know, it did. I did note that to myself. I thought, wow, this does feel strange. And I didn't know what was happening. I just thought, wow, this feels incredible. This feels really strange. And then I even thought, am I dying? Is this what it feels like to die? I even started to wonder that. And I thought, if this is death, it's not so bad at all. It's not scary like I thought. Wow. Because it's almost like I had grown so accustomed to the fear that when it was gone, I had never noticed. I give it the word fear after the fact, after coming out of it. When I was in my life before the near-death experience, I didn't know I was living in a state of fear. I thought that was normal human existence or normal existence. It was only when I was out of it. So it's kind of like, when you don't realize the noise of an air conditioner until it goes off, and only then do you go, oh, yeah, there was noise. That's what it was. I didn't realize that I had lived my life in a state of fear until the fear was gone.
Wow, that's so powerful. And how many people are living their lives? I mean, you must see them all the time.
I do.
And they think, oh, it's normal to be anxious about all these things around me I can't control.
Yeah, and so now I recognize the fear because I know what it's like to be without it. So when people say, oh, can you still maintain that state after so long? I say, yes, because you know what it is. You know what being without the fear is, and that's what that state is. And I call it a state of love. And love is really overused, and it's also misunderstood. But to me, I feel, just if I were to give it words, the English language lacks words for this kind of phenomena because we dismiss this kind of thing as not being true or not being real. So we haven't assigned words to these emotions, these feelings. But I tend to like to use the words love and fear. To me, the lack of fear is love, or love is the lack of fear. I've realized you can't have both simultaneously. And so what I've realized that the best way to explain to people that if you want to lose that fear, work on increasing love, and then you'll experience that.
Okay, that's powerful. Yeah. What happens next? You're out of body, you're looking at this, you're having these incredible realizations, you're asking yourself if you're dying. What happens next?
Well, the next thing that happens is I realize that I am dying because I start to become aware of other beings, if you will, around me. And some of these beings I recognize and some I don't. I'm aware that my best friend is with me, and my dad who'd passed away 10, 11 years prior to this experience. So he was there, and I feel that they're there to guide me through this process. And now in life, in physical life, my relationship with my dad had been very turbulent. But interestingly, in this state of being without the physical body, all I can feel from my dad is pure, unconditional love. And I realized that even things like turbulent relationships, all that is part of the physical. We don't take it with us when we're there. It's because of all the filters and the beliefs through which we communicate with each other. And that's what lends to the turbulence. But we leave all that behind. You see, because my parents are Indian. I'm Indian, ethnically Indian, and my parents are Hindu. And my dad had wanted me to have an arranged marriage, and I didn't. When I was growing up, I was being groomed for an arranged marriage. I rebelled against it. I had a very Cyndi Lauper personality.
What does that mean?
That means, so I was a big fan.
Girls just want to have fun? Is
yes,
that what it is? Okay.
Exactly.
In Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong.
Okay.
That was my freedom song. I loved Cyndi Lauper. I used to spray paint my hair with these colored hairsprays that were all the rage at that time in the 80s. I used to spray my hair, the neon colors. And I used to play that song, and it used to drive my dad crazy because...
Isn't the video of her as well having fun and rebelling against her parents?
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, that video was me. I would watch that and I would think, oh my God, that is so me. And it would drive my parents crazy, especially my dad, because he wanted me to have an arranged marriage, and it was the furthest thing from my mind. I wanted my freedom. I wanted to earn my own money so that I could travel the world. I knew an arranged marriage meant no more freedom, no traveling, nothing. Anyway, eventually I did succumb to an arranged marriage, but I ran away, which brought a lot of shame to my family. So I always felt that I'd disappointed my dad. I always felt that I'd be judged by him on the other side. But here I was with the essence of my dad and my essence and his essence, and all I felt from him was pure, unconditional love.
Wow.
And, and that's when I realized that all of this stuff, the gender disparity, our cultures, our beliefs, our gender, all of that gets left behind. We don't take it with us when we cross over.
We're just energy at that point, and
yeah,
not these weird physical hang-ups or language hang-ups or...
Exactly.
Okay, so you're getting a lot of knowledge here, Anita, when you're out of body. I mean, these are a lot of very interesting lessons that you're getting.
Yeah.
Are they telling you to do something or guiding you or?
Yes, so eventually I get told by my dad that it's not my time, actually my dad and my best friend, that I need to go back. But no part of me wants to come back because my physical body is dying. And so...
Do you think there's a risk at that point of you dying if they hadn't have said, no, you need to go back? Do you think they were there to remind you that it wasn't time and you could have easily gone?
I would have gone. If they weren't there to remind me to go back, I would have stayed on that side. I would have gone onward into that side. Wow. Yeah.
But you had work to do back here on Earth.
They told me I had work to do. They wanted me to know that I had already suffered and I had gifts waiting for me. And they wanted me to know that now that I knew what I knew, meaning what I was now learning by experiencing what I was experiencing, they wanted me to know that now that I knew this, that when I go back, my body would heal very quickly.
Wow, that's pretty deep. All right, so you trust them and you go back. Is that a conscious decision to go back? I'm going back in this body that's painful and emaciated and looking terminally ill.
Yes, it was a conscious decision to come back.
Okay.
My dad actually said, his final words before I came back was, now you know the truth, go back and live your life fearlessly. And what he meant was be yourself fearlessly, because I had always been afraid. And really, at the crux of it, the crux of fear, it's the fear of being yourself.
That's super powerful. All right, you go back in. How long are you in this coma for?
So it's a day and a half, about 34 hours. Okay. So as soon as he says that now that you know the truth, go back and live your life fearlessly, in those moments, my eyes started to open on my physical body. My eyes started to open, and at that time, I was kind of delirious. I had one foot on each side. So I could see this world, but I hadn't completely left that one. And my husband and my mom was there, and my brother was now there. He had flown in from India. And while I was in the other side, I could feel that connection with my brother as well. I mean, there was so much I learned, which we'll get into, because I realized that we are actually all connected. But so when I open my eyes, I see them, and they are ecstatic that I look like I'm coming out of the coma. And they're saying, oh, wow, welcome back. And I'm saying, Dad is here, Dad is here. Don't worry, I'm fine, stop worrying so much. And they're wondering, what am I talking about? So they call the doctor. The doctor tells them that I'm still critical, maybe, and tells them that I'm delirious. Maybe my eyes have opened, but I'm still emaciated. I'm still connected to all the tubes and machines. And the doctor still says, but she's still critical. Don't read anything into her opening her eyes. But then I actually start to say things to the doctor of things that he was doing to me while I was in the coma. I just said something like, didn't you take the fluid out of my lungs at about 4 or 5 this morning? And he said, yeah, but how do you know that? And I said, I saw you. And he said, you couldn't have. Excuse me. He said, you couldn't have. You were in the coma. And I said, really? See, I didn't even know I was in a coma because I was so confused as to whether I was on this side or that side. And then he said, anyway, get some rest. And that's when he told my family, she's still critical. And he left the room, and I started to tell my family things that I heard and I saw them do. And that's when they knew something had happened.
And the next few days, you're still conscious?
Yes, and so over the next 4 days, I started to get more clarity and regain more consciousness, but the tumors shrunk by 70% in 4 days.
4 days.
And the doctors could not believe it. They didn't even know what to write in the medical records.
And how do they explain it? And how do you explain it?
So they have difficulty explaining it. They try to attribute it to different things that they did, and they tried. And I guess, because at that time, in that moment, when it was happening, they actually said, we don't know what to write in your medical records. Now when you ask them, they say, oh, you know, it could have been us getting the fluid out on time, or the chemo finally responding, or they'll try and attribute different explanations. But I know what happened. I know that at that time they were completely confused, but I know internally what happened.
Right. And they said the chemo that you had finally caught up, and then it worked at that instant.
Yes.
And they also say if they hadn't drained your lungs, you would have died.
Yes.
Right? And you don't agree with that?
No, I don't, because I'd had my lungs drained 8-10 times already. I was going in for the draining every 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. So shrink by 70%. And how are you feeling, and what happens after those few days?
So I was like really euphoric because I was watching it pan out, because there were so many things that I was shown that I felt that my dad or whoever, all the others or the universe or the other people that were there, that was showing me that was the trajectory of my life. I didn't feel they were forcing me to come back, but it was like, should you go back, this is what's waiting for you. Don't waste it. It's a gift. Don't waste it. And this is what I kept feeling was being, that I was being pushed in this direction. And so now over these days, I was feeling it. I was seeing it pan out. I thought, wow, this is crazy. This is really amazing. They said that you would heal extremely quickly. They said that you have work to do. You don't have to figure it out. You just have to be fearless about being yourself, and you will see it unfold. Your work, it will touch a lot of people, more than you can imagine, but you don't have to figure out how to do it. And I was like, but wait, I'm an introvert. But it felt as though I was assured that it's okay, don't worry, you'll be taken care of. That's what it felt like if I put words to it.
Okay.
It was beyond language, but I'm putting words to it.
And so you didn't feel scared?
I didn't feel scared. I kept feeling that the minute you feel you have to try to please everyone, the minute you feel you have to try to please everyone or try really hard to get anything, that's when it falls through the cracks. You just have to be yourself. You just have to honor yourself, be authentic, and take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to say no. Everything was the opposite of what I had been conditioned to believe. Everything. It was like I was conditioned to believe that I had to prove myself and chase and pursue what I wanted. Here I was being told the opposite. No, you don't have to do that. I'd been conditioned to believe that it was selfish to take care of myself and to honor myself and to find my joy and to do what I love to do. I was being told, no, that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do.
Simple. It's very simple, right?
Yeah.
You just go back to these simple things. Be yourself, be authentic, replace fear with love.
Yeah.
And always go back to these principles.
Yes. And so, I was kind of thinking, does that mean I don't have to do anything? And the response felt like, technically, yes, you don't have to do anything, but you will be doing things as a result of what's unfolding. In other words, you don't have to figure it out.
Okay. All right. And how much longer are you in the hospital? What is that next couple months like for you? Do you gain weight? Does the cancer subside? What happens? So
over the next few weeks, the cancer just kept subsiding, and the doctors were confused. They couldn't believe what was going on. And so they were doing all these different tests. They insisted on doing different tests. And at the time, I actually tried to argue with them and say, you don't need to do the tests. I know I'm going to be fine. But they insisted. And so they wanted to do a bone marrow biopsy, which was very painful, another lymph node biopsy, this time removing an entire lymph node from my neck, which was extremely painful. But today, looking back, I'm glad I let them go through with all of that, because I have all the test results to prove that there was no trace of cancer. So within 3.5 weeks, they could find no trace of cancer in my body, and they didn't know what to make of it. But they kept me there because they were still convinced that there was cancer, but they just were having trouble finding it. Eventually, at the end of 5 weeks, I was physically strong enough and I'd gained enough weight for them to let me go home.
And when you tell people this story, I mean, what do people say? Are all of the doctors, do they refute it? Are they flabbergasted? Like, what do they say?
It's mixed. So first of all, I'm very lucky that my GP, my general practitioner, who is not an oncologist, but he is my GP and he was there throughout the journey with me. He saw it happen. He thought I was gone when I was in the coma. He knew the results. He knew the results from 3 months before when I was given the diagnosis that it was too late. So he knows and he believes me 100%. So that was really great. And there's been another oncologist who has studied my story. He's gone into my medical records. He's looked at everything and he said, whichever way I look at it, you should be dead. But at the same time, you do have people who are, I guess, who are really invested in their beliefs in the medical model. And when somebody is really invested in their beliefs, if something goes against it or doesn't fit in, they have to find a way to discard it. They have to find a way to debunk what you're saying, because otherwise it means changing everything that they believe and the way they do things. So there are a lot of people like that as well.